Years ago, around a crackling fire, I first heard the tale of the Ozark hanging tree. It was 1863, deep in Civil War country, when two Arkansas Union soldiers and their neighbor were captured by Confederates. They were dragged into a limestone hollow and hanged from a twisted beech tree. I never knew the place until now. Makes you feel a little bit uneasy. My buddy Will and I descended into Limestone Valley on a cool April evening. I've been dreaming of this trip for over 2.5 years. As we made our way through the forest, I found myself glancing left and right off the trail, trying to find it. I've been looking for years without success, but for some reason, this trip just felt different. With evening fast approaching, we made way to camp. Tomorrow, the real search would begin, and this time, we'd have a guide. So like 2.5 years ago, I camped at this same general area. It was actually up over here on the land with a group of guys that I haven't got to spend a ton of time with since then. But on that camping trip, we had a conversation, a campfire conversation, and a story was told that ultimately led to the creation of the Ghost of the Piney series. The conversation was basically that in this area, there was supposedly a hanging tree. Now, if you're familiar with your history, you know anything about the Civil War, the Confederates, the Union, this was kind of a hot ground. There was a lot of conflict that arose from this area. And when local Southern people sympathized with the Union, it was a dangerous thing for them. A lot of those people got killed. Also told the story about a Civil War hideout where supposedly some of that basically was going on. People were going to that spot to hide, to get away from their Southern neighbors who were Confederates. There was a particular tree in this area where the Union sympathizers were sought out, taken to the tree, and hung. Now, the guy telling me this story all those years ago, he had no idea where it was. And I had no idea, obviously it's Ozarks, a million trees. There's no way to know without knowing someone that has been there. And so I never really thought I would get to make an episode about that. We were here on the Piney, and that is where I decided I wanted to make a series called Ghosts of the Piney, and it was gonna be telling the story of people who lived their lives in the Ozarks and died tragically. And that has been kind of the underlying theme in every single episode, all 6 chapters up until today. So the reason that I am extremely excited, and also, to be completely honest, a little bit uneasy about making this episode, is because an individual reached out to me that had recently seen my Ozark Castle Ruins video. And he said, I don't know if you know about this, but there's a tree called the Hanging Tree in Newton County near the Big Piney where Union sympathizers were hung. And he said, I know where it is. Tomorrow, he's coming down here. We're gonna meet up with him, and if everything goes the way that we plan, we're gonna find this tree. Obviously, I want to be sensitive here. I've tried to kind of balance this with each episode of this series because we're talking about people that lived and died in these Ozarks, and many of them have family that are still in this area. In fact, the first episode we did was a story about a man named John Fritz, who's also a Union sympathizer that was taken and murdered by his Southern neighbors. And after I released that video, a man reached out to me with the same last name, Fritz, and he said, I just want to let you know that I'm the descendant of that man, and I know the story, and he provided a whole lot more details that I didn't even know, that I didn't have in the writings that I was reading, the historical writings that I was reading. And so my point is, we're telling these story about people that lived and died here, and a lot of their extended family and their relatives, you know, could potentially see this. So I want to be respectful, and this is not just about entertainment, if that makes sense. Like, obviously, history is a very fascinating and entertaining subject, but we're talking about real people, you know, real people that lived and died. And so, you know, I want to be respectful. It's an uneasy feeling. It's kind of hard to really put it into words. I'm excited. I'm also cautious. Good morning. Great night last night. It was actually pretty chilly. Absolutely beautiful spot to camp here on the Piney. And as we were packing up the tent, Scott and a few other folks that he brought with him made their way down here. And Scott mentioned that he didn't want to be on camera, so I'm going to respect that. I'm not going to film him, but he is the reason that we're able to go to this spot. He found it, he said, while he was looking for firewood, and this was many years ago. And so he's offered to take us to the spot, which is super awesome of him. Just about all packed up and gonna go join with them. So I'm not gonna be filming him taking us to this spot, but after we part ways, I'll show you guys what we find. Looking forward to it. Trail, a short one up to this kind of big flat area, and it's an awesome camping site. Just wanted to see what was up here, and but while we're up here, we found a few things that are super interesting, and I'm wondering if this wasn't done by the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps. I don't know that, but check this out. You can see the water running out here. Is that the bottom?
The bottom. So
wow.
4 feet deep.
So I wonder if, like, that was the reason they were going to build something up here, because of the spring. You've got this stack of rocks that is mortared together. See that? And then at the top, there's this pipe sticking out. And I think it curves around and comes out right down there. Over here, see this kind of rock structure, and you can see the rebar. So this was anchored down, and there's some more of it over there. And up there is where the kind of road continues on. That tree's blocking it right now. So you have this right here. You have that spring, I guess it's the spring or the water source up top. And then whatever this stack of rocks with the pipe is. And then lastly, you've got this kind of rock pit. Maybe this was the, like you were saying, maybe this is the vault to it. Oh yeah. What was that? The CCC did this stuff a while back, so this could have also been just damaged. Good camping spot though. Big and open up on this ridge. If you know anything about the structures back there, I would love to get more information. So drop it down in the comments below. Let me know what this is, if you know, or if you have an idea. Pretty cool. And, but yeah, if you want this spot to come camp up here, you could easily get 5-6 rigs. It's all level. And it looks like there was a big dead tree that was recently cut down. So widowmakers are taken care of. But yeah, if you want this spot, I give that out to my channel members, GPS data, and I'm working with Onyx right now. So if you guys want to save a little bit of money on the Onyx app, you can click this link or scan it with your phone if you're watching this on a TV. If not, just click the link in the channel description. It'll save you like 20% on the app, which is a cool deal. And then for these actual coordinates, you guys just hit that join button and become a channel member. All right, let's get back on the road.
On March 24th, 1863, Captain James Vanderpool of Company C, 1st Arkansas Infantry, under Colonel James Johnson, was ordered to lead a scouting mission into Newton County. He was joined by Captain Abel Stevens of Company E, along with a group of Union soldiers. During the mission, they encountered a significant Confederate presence and were forced to retreat to the Union post at Fayetteville, leaving several men behind in Newton County. When those men eventually made their way back, they discovered the Fayetteville post had been evacuated on April 16th. With nowhere to go, they became vulnerable to capture and were forced to go into hiding. The men known to have been left behind were Gilbert Smith, David Flood, James Smith, Gilbert's brother and David's brother-in-law, John Standridge, Kelsey Gilmore, O.C. Bright, and possibly Daniel Tennyson and James Kreiner. All were eventually captured, along with Barry Stone, a neighbor of David Flood, who may have been helping the men. Barry Stone was not listed as a Union soldier, but lived in Union Township, Newton County, in 1860. At some point, one of the captives managed to get a hold of a knife, and a few of the men were able to escape after cutting themselves free. However, David Flood, James Smith, and Barry Stone were not so fortunate. They were captured again and sentenced to hang. When David Flood was taken prisoner, his wife Martha followed the captors, pleading for her husband's life and the lives of the other men. Despite her efforts, the Confederates carried out the execution and hanged all 3 men on the same tree. The 3 men are believed to be buried in an unmarked grave in the Steel Creek area of Limestone Valley. According to a deposition by Isham Wheeler, the rope marks from the hanging were still visible on the tree a year later. When I was reading all of this history, one part really stood out to me. Flood's wife. The account says she followed the Confederate soldiers begging that her husband be spared, but my question is, why was she there? The Union soldiers were sent to scout Newton County from the post in Fayetteville. Wouldn't she have been back at the military post? Surely she wasn't riding with the soldiers into harm's way. After many hours of research, I discovered that Company C of the 1st Arkansas Infantry was almost entirely from Newton County. These men were recruits from that area. So when Captain Vanderpool was told to take 100 soldiers, he chose men that knew the region best. But here's the wild part. Flood's wife was likely at their home in Newton County. And Barry Stone, he was their neighbor. There's no record of him being enlisted in the Union Army. But for some reason, he was hanged with Flood and Smith. And the only detail we have is that he may have been helping them. Do you see this coming together? Flood and Smith escaped and headed to Stone's home. Martha clearly knew they were in the area and captured. I imagine the escaped soldiers may have paid her a visit first, and she may have told them that the Confederates would check their home, so she sent them on to a trusted neighbor. And that is why she followed them, pleading for their lives. She knew. She was there. This happened in their state, county, city, neighborhood.
Our plan was not to camp at the hanging tree. We talked about potentially going more west, kind of back the direction that we're going to go tomorrow. And I was just thinking about it, and I feel like you can't go to a place called the hanging tree and not try and spend the night there. Now, I'm not a superstitious kind of guy. I mean, I think I may leave a little room to the unknown, and yeah, I'm not superstitious. I'm a little stitious. But I'm not this type of stuff doesn't freak me out. But I do have to say that, here, let's go on a walk. I do have to say that having this hanging over your campsite is a little bit weird. I mean, just kind of imagining, if the stories and the rumors are true, it does, I don't know, nighttime in the Ozarks is always a relaxing thing for me. But when you go to some of these places, it just makes you feel a little bit uneasy. Maybe that's the best way of saying it. Not scared, just uneasy. So we're gonna just chill out and do a normal kind of camping night and, see what happens. And if you never see this video and you come out here in a future date and you see me and my buddy Will hanging from the tree, let that be a lesson to you. Don't come camp here. The tree itself is just so bizarre. There's so much about it. So you can see up top where the branches kind of split out, where they could have potentially hung somebody. But check this out. So it looks like at one time the tree was probably struck by lightning, and a big chunk of it burned, and all that kind of wore out, but the remaining kind of two sides of the tree survived. And it bends over the road in such a weird way. So the road goes off in this direction, and then back over here where my truck is, it continues. And so as you passed down on this road, you would have to go underneath the hanging tree. You know, obviously we're dealing with a lot of speculation in a story like this because there's just so much we don't know. A lot of this was passed down through oral tradition, and you know, there's just going to be a lot of places where you kind of have to fill in the blanks. But we do have the account of the Union soldiers that were killed, and there's a piece of private land where an individual has actually put a plaque up in their honor. It could potentially be where they were buried. I don't know that information. If you're familiar with that story, you definitely let me know down in the comments below. I would love to learn more. It's just wild thinking about guys that represent the mindset of the majority of our country. Now, you know, we want to be united and we want to be one country and we have common ideals. Obviously there's disagreements, but to think that there was a time where people that felt that way, like the majority of us do today, there was a time where they ended up strung up in a tree like that.
They said it was a 38 special. Then for some ungodly reason, they shipped his perforated carcass back here. Here, right out here. He's family. So he's buried here in the family cemetery? Well, not in the cemetery, but he's here. He's here.
Sitting here today, I don't think I can imagine what it would have been like back in 1863. But then I turn on the news and am inundated with politicians on both sides doing everything they can to further divide our country. Suddenly, it doesn't seem so foreign. And look, I'm a simple Southern man. I won't pretend to grasp the complexities of economics and politics, but I have a feeling that terms like Antifa and Nazi, when used to stereotype the polar ends of our political system, are similar derogatory terms to the ones our ancestors used back in 1863. Even though it seems near impossible, history does repeat itself. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to go back. I'm ready for more unity. This tree is something for the history books, not the news. And from its roots, it rises, like ghosts of the Piney, to take the helm and aim us home. Good morning. The tree did not get us. We are still alive. There she is in all her glory. So, I'm cooking a gourmet breakfast this morning, and I wanted to share with you guys what we've got going on here. A little hydration and a little monster. Just got the tent packed up and going to get everything up and moving here pretty soon. I used my Waterport weekender and took a shower this morning. It was cold, but got all cleaned up. After a couple days, I don't know. I like being able to actually take a shower and not just hit with the wet wipes. It also just makes me feel more awake. So knock that out, and then I'm gonna chug this monster and get back on the trail. Really, really neat spot, and you know, I love the stories. The stories are what make it. And a bunch of beautiful rock formations up on this hill. I don't know if that's getting picked up in the camera or not, but man, really, really cool. All right, you got any impressions on the night at the hanging tree?
It was dark. Except for the moon. The moon was actually pretty bright.
Yeah, that's true. But being under the trees versus when we were down at the...
I would say it's probably a little spooky. But
yeah, it definitely is. I'd probably be more likely to camp there with someone else. Other than, you know, it's different when you got someone with you. If I was there by myself, I definitely would have been in my head all night.
Oh yeah.
Well, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. This is a pretty wild spot, and I absolutely love these types of trips. Of course, the camping, the wheeling, that's fun. Hanging out with folks, that's a great time too. But I really like when the location you go to has a story, something that you can kind of explore, and it adds like a depth to the Ozarks that I just don't think you can really experience unless you kind of dig into the history. So I enjoyed doing that on this video, and thank you guys so much for checking it out. As always, huge shout out to our members. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel the way you do, the show. My appreciation. I'm gonna drop all your names right over here. And then of course, also thank you to our sponsors. All these companies, I list their links down below. You can go check them out. Really appreciate you guys. Together, between the two of you, y'all make content like this possible. And it means a lot, so thank you. If you're watching this and you're not a member and you enjoyed this and you would like to show your support by joining and also getting GPS data and group camp invites and Slack access and all that stuff as well, you can hit the join button here on YouTube. You can click the link in the video description, or you can scan this QR code if you're watching this on your TV. Really appreciate you guys. Thanks again. And more importantly, remember, the more you camp, the less deer the aliens abduct.